Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, November 21st. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 2 days. The game against Michigan in 9 days. We're going to be taking a look at the Ohio State defense, which is going to get a pretty stiff test, it looks like, on Saturday from those Indiana Hoosiers. Going to be doing that with our buddy Ross Fulton, one of the X's and O's gurus at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And when we have Ross on the show, we're sponsored by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steak, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. All right, so we're going to start with the running game, and it has felt to me all week like if Indiana can't run the ball, Indiana's going to have a tough time winning this game on Saturday. If Ohio State can make them one-dimensional, that's going to be a real challenge. We saw Michigan be able to do that to a certain degree. So will the Buckeyes be able to do that this weekend? Well, we're going to start looking at a couple plays in terms of how Ohio State defended the run well and maybe not so well. Ross, the first play is an example of not so well. 3rd and 13, Northwestern runs what kind of looks like a give-up handoff, and then they pick up a first down, which is probably, it was a pleasant surprise for them and probably not what Jim Knowles had in mind.
Yeah, and in terms of Indiana to start with, like it all comes down to how well that they can defend RPOs to me. A lot of it. And I guess you want to fit that into the run category. We can circle back around to that at the end. Northwestern, coming back to this clip, got them a few times early on, right? So like we talked a lot about Ohio State wanting to create pressure. And so one downside of that, right, is if you're doing more exotic things to rush the passer and passing downs, teams can turn to the run against you as one response. That happened on this clip, right? And this is just like a 5-man blitz. Everyone's playing cover one. And you're basically down to like Sonny Styles trying to scrape over the top from the backside. And the running back has a two-way go and sets him up. And everyone else has their back turned in cover one playing man coverage. I thought that overall, I don't think Northwestern had a ton of success running the ball, except in these passing down situations. With maybe the exception of a little bit of quarterback run game as well. But like they got them on this one. There was a second down one on their touchdown drive where it was 2nd and long, and Ohio State mugged up the linebackers, meaning they were right over the guards, showing blitz, and got them out of position. So there was a big gap. And Northwestern did, to Ohio State's credit, try to go back to the well one more time in the second half on 3rd long and run it and got stuffed. So, not a foolproof plan, but it's certainly like something to keep an eye on. The more you get in these pass blitz, pass rush type looks, particularly in college, you see this increasingly. Like teams are happy to run the ball in these situations.
All right, and the next one, a little more successful run defense is against the zone read play. And once again, just like the last one, they brought Sonny Styles, but this time they also brought Denzel Burke off of the edge as well.
Exactly. So as I mentioned earlier, Northwestern had some success with the quarterback run game on zone read plays from the get-go early on. They kind of got Sonny Styles stuck in the same situation where he was coming off the edge and he had to count for the quarterback. And so what Ohio State did a few times in response after that, particularly to these when there's not a receiver out wide, either because like there's a tight end, opposite trips, or like this kind of bunch set, they would just bring the boundary corner on a blitz, right? And so he accounts for the quarterback, and then now Sonny Styles can play the running back and attack downhill, as you can see there. So you're bringing two off the edge, you're canceling gaps in the backfield this way. Again, getting more cornerbacks active in the read game or against the run. Again, turning to Indiana, as I said, it will be a lot more RPOs, but the same principles apply, right? You got to account for all the numbers. And so you, again, seeing, I would say, more creative, more diverse ways to do so and to try to cancel these kind of schemes out.
All right. So now we're going to move on to the pass. And this is an area where Northwestern, I guess, had a little more success than they did on the ground. It was not a real consistent game for Northwestern on offense. This is one where, once again, Ohio State is bringing pressure. It's felt like they've been bringing a lot more pressure the last couple of weeks, been a little more aggressive there. This is one where they're in cover one, and this ends up leading to a completion over the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some consternation about the cornerback play following this game. It's hard to yes, you can point to this completion and they hit the back shoulder throw against Denzel Burke. Obviously, Indiana's great at those back shoulder throws. They hit the one throw against cover 2, like in the hole between the flat corner and the deep safety. That was a great throw and catch. But I don't think there was like a ton of success. But this is one where, Ohio State, as I said, Jim Knowles is doing lots of different things right now to create pressure, a lot more variety. Some worked really well. We'll get to some more examples. Others had less success. They ran a hot pressure at one point early on, which was like 3 deep, 2 under. Didn't get home. That creates obviously some big holes in the coverage. This is a 5-1 to start with, which is an interesting look. You got 5 defensive linemen. You can see that particularly from the backside angle. You have Jack Sawyer as a defensive tackle, Tyleik Williams as a nose, in a pass rush situation. And then they're playing cover 1, right? And so obviously a lot of, as I said, consternation about how the corners have played in man coverage. And I do think that it continues to behoove Ohio State to mix up the coverages more, not be predictably in cover 1. We've seen examples of, as we've talked about in previous weeks, getting picks and the like, teams attacking cover 1. So good in mixing it up. I will say on this, like Denzel Burke's in an off-man position. I think you could criticize that he kind of backpedals here and gives too much ground and probably should have played this flat-footed. One wonders how much he has memories of playing it flat-footed though against Oregon and falling for a double move. But they are making it difficult here. Like one thing they are doing to create pressure is when you typically run cover 1, a lot of times your standard cover 1 is like you have a deep zone player, right? Like the deep safety, but you also then have a linebacker or some type of player as like a sort of a underneath middle player. And they're not doing that a lot. Like they're having their linebackers either blitz. Obviously they have a 5-man rush here. Like Sonny Styles is responsible then as a result for the running back coverage, or like they'll have the linebackers green dog, which means like they'll read what the running back does. And if the running back stays in to block, they'll blitz. So you're obviously leaving a lot of room in the middle of the field here. Like you have a very deep zone safety with not a lot of help. So, they did pull Denzel Burke after this play for a bit. I mean, Jermaine Matthews is obviously getting some run. He had his own situation where he got beat over the top. Didn't result in points for Northwestern. So I do think, though, as I said, it behooves them to mix up coverages, and we're going to get to some examples of them doing that. No one's going to be perfect. The more aggressive you are, you might give up these plays. The key then obviously is to not let a 15 or 20 yarder turn into a 60 yarder.
All right. And now we're going to be looking at some more. You mentioned different coverages. This is different coverage, but this is a play where Jack Sawyer gets in the backfield so quickly that it really the coverage is, the coverage is obviously always important, but when you can get a defensive end into the backfield as quickly as Jack Sawyer gets in there, on this one, the coverage does not have to cover for very long.
Yeah, which is obviously a benefit. I like looking at the coverages and things, but yes, the more you can create pressure, and noticeably Sawyer does it with an inside move. And so they're changing up again the rush lanes a little bit, not just always coming from the outside, but they're able to do that on this play because they're running a cover 2 look. And so to that side of Sawyer, you have Denzel Burke sitting in the flat. What's noticeable about this one, though, is this is Tampa. So cover 2 with the middle safety or the middle linebacker is like the deep pull runner. You can see Arvell Reese get depth immediately. But it's non-traditional, like we talked about last on the offensive episode, in the sense that what they're going to do is this looks pre-snap like they're going to play cover 1, right? Like Caleb Downs is walking down and it looks like you're going to get a single high look. But what they do actually is run a cover 2 variant where Jermaine Matthews as the field corner to the wide side. He's the deep half player. Sonny Styles is going to play the flat. And so to one side, you have like a traditional cover 2 where the corner's in the flat and then you have the deep safety. But at the other side, it's the corner and it's the linebacker. So, I continue to signal, these plays out, because the more that they can disguise things, and you take a page from what they see on offense with a lot of these teams, showing 1 high, dropping to 2, showing 2, dropping to 1, changing things up again, like that that makes it easier. Obviously, as you said, the pass rush gets there, but the more they can make quarterbacks have to think about what they're seeing, that also is going to help the pass rush. And so it's not just about blitzing or, creating pressure packages. Like this is just a 4-man rush, but they're still giving opponents a lot more to think about than they previously were.
All right, next up, a concept that I know we've talked about in the past, cross dog. I always want to make a Michael Scott joke here. I'm not going to do it. It's okay. Linebackers bringing pressure here, and this is another way that Jim Knowles got pressure, forcing another throwaway here.
Yeah, as you said, a lot of pressure in this game. Some worked, some didn't. But what's good is just the variety, right? So like we talked about the 2-steal concept a lot where the last few weeks, and we saw that again this week, where for that one, they like to bring to the wide side of the field. They'll bring the nickel or the overhang along with the Mike linebacker to that side and drop into the flat. Here they do this is a variant of that, but they do it slightly different, right? So as you mentioned, like they're going to cross the inside linebackers. So they're going to attack both A gaps with the 2 inside linebackers. And so it's still like a 2 deep, 4 under, 5-man pressure. But instead of like Latham Ransom, you can see him to the top. Instead of turning and playing to the field, like the steal concept, right? You're rolling your coverage that way and taking away that throw. He's actually turning to the boundary. So here you still have 3 over 2 to the boundary, and you have 2 over and then 3 over 2 to the field, right? So you're still getting your benefits of your cover 2 concept or split safety concepts of keeping an extra defender over on each side of the receivers, but you're creating pressure. Again, dropping JT Tumalo on the flat there as the flat player. So again, another variant. And I just think this stuff it's just going to be important, particularly like we can touch on the Indiana RPOs, but like when you get in passing downs, like going forward, you're just going to like this variety just needs to continue. And like at this point, there's a lot there, right? Like we've talked for a long time with like Jim Knowles, like it's pretty simplistic. Like now they're running a lot of volume of concepts. And the execution for that seems to be pretty good. As I said, not everything's working, but I think they had a lot of success with some of these cover 2 concepts on passing downs against Northwestern.
All right, we're going to continue to mix things up in terms of coverage. We go from Tampa 2 to cover 2 to now cover 4. If you are listening and you're wondering, okay, which play they're talking about now, this is the one where Jack Sawyer gets pressure, ends up kind of chasing the quarterback across the field and sort of shoves him right after he throws the ball right in front of the Ohio State bench.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I keep kind of harping on my main themes here, right, week after week since the Oregon game, which is, disguise, multiplicity, and then matching routes in the secondary. And I thought they did a nice job of that with cover 4 in this game. I saw them run, I think, more of it, particularly as the game was going on, than I certainly had seen in previous weeks. But again, like as opposed to what they were doing earlier in the season with sort of like the zone, like sort of spot drop, like here you can see them matching routes, right? Like, Cody Simon gets out to the flat. Davison Igbinosun carries that deep defender to the deep safety. And then to then you have Caleb Downs picking up that backside, dig route from the tight end. So it's just taking away like some of those easy throws, like even in the Iowa game, I recall being there early on. And so I just think like, a lot of good reps, going to sort of harp in, and this will lead into my next example on the RPO front. But I think that the more that they can do this with cover 4 while matching routes, I think it just having change ups against the RPOs that isn't always running cover 1 is going to be critical.
All right. As you mentioned right at the top of the show, you think that how Ohio State defends the RPO is going to be maybe the single biggest determination in terms of defensively how this game goes on Saturday. And so let's end with a play with against the RPO. Just as a reminder, we've talked in the past about the fact that a lot of times running a man coverage is the best way to sort of help defeat the undefeatable RPO play. Is that what we're looking at here?
No, this is actually cover 4, right? And so let's use Michigan as an example against Indiana in the second half. Like I thought, to me, again, like they slowed down the RPO game. Like Curtis, the Indiana run game is good. It's like, I think they have talented running backs, but I think the running game to me is there to open up those RPO throws and let Curtis Short to get the ball out and distribute it quickly. And, I would say that Michigan mixed cover 1 with like some man match cover 4 like this is, right? And so Rourke wanted to pull the football, and there just weren't receivers there to pull it and throw to, because essentially you're manning them up, but in different ways, right? And so like this is kind of what I would look for against Indiana. Like this is obviously like a arrow RPO route where he's reading and then pulling it. You can see the lineman like 6 yards downfield, the left tackle, because it never gets called in college, and that's a whole nother issue, right? Which makes it difficult to play this kind of stuff. But you can see them again, like matching routes, like Jordan Hancock's taking that flat route in man. Davison Igbenogsen's driving on the outside receiver running that little hitch. And so, yes, it's a completion. It's 3 yards. That doesn't hurt you. As I said, like you want to keep those. This allows you to keep the linebackers in the box. And which a lot of times, like that's what Michigan also, like Rourke was looking at those linebackers. They were playing the run. He was pulling for the throw, but they had the numbers to account for the wide receivers out wide. And so, but by doing this and like mixing, if they, as I said, if they can mix a few things just so it's not like, well, we know we're going to get cover 1. So even though in theory the RPOs are canceled out, like we'll pick you like Oregon did, or we'll, line someone up in the backfield and send them out wide. So now your B gap defender is out covering a receiver and you have no one in that gap. Like this keeps the offense off balance. And as I said, to me, like if you can limit the success of the RPOs against Indiana, that is the key to victory for Ohio State, in my opinion.
All right. Well, we will see how well Ohio State can limit the success of our Indiana on the RPOs. We will see how well the Buckeyes can run the ball, throw the ball, do all of the things on Saturday against the Indiana Hoosiers, the third top 5 matchup of the season for Ohio State. They are 1-1 so far. With a win, they will be they will certainly control their own destiny, and then will be in pretty good shape to earn themselves a spot in the Big Ten championship game if they could beat the Michigan Wolverines the following week. But one game at a time, everyone. One big national game, Fox noon broadcast at a time. We will be there on Saturday. Tony, Kevin, and I covering the team, Mark covering recruiting, our whole team of X's and O's gurus. It has been a busy week at Buckeye Huddle. This would be a great time for you to join at that site and be a part of all that fun, all the interesting stuff going on right now, all the insider access. Right now, offering a membership for your first month for just $4.99. Quite a deal, considering everything you get, and the fact that first month will cover that Indiana game, the Michigan game, Big Ten championship games, college football playoff selection show, early signing day. It is a busy, busy month. We would love to have you there with us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.